Achieving the Dream webinar. Before we get started, I am going to briefly go through how to use the GoToWebinar technology in case you haven't used it. So first, in particular, I'm going to show you some of the features that allow us to make our presentation more interactive. On your screen, you should be able to see a control panel pictured right now. If you don't, it's because it has been minimized, but you can pull it back out by going to the Grab tab, labeled B on the visual, which hides and shows the control panel. There is also an attendee list where you can see all of the participants on the call. And for today's webinar, we will not be enabling individual audio. So if you have a question, you can type your question into the question pane, and I can read it to the group or respond privately throughout the webinar. All of the panes can be expanded or minimized by clicking on the plus or minus button that are at the top left of each pane.
Thank you, Allison. Hi, welcome to today's Data Insight webinar on Achieving the Dream's transition to the National Student Clearinghouse. Today we'll be discussing the new data collection and reporting process. My name is Laurie Haycock, and I'm the Acting National Director of Data Coaching and Analytics for Achieving the Dream. And joining me today are several other panelists, including Wei Song, who's our Director of Data Management and Research. As many of you know, Wei managed the Achieving the Dream database. Also joining me is Allison Ray Acalano, who's our Assistant Director of Data Coaching, and she was instrumental in organizing this webinar and will be driving today. Thank you, Allison. Additionally, we have Joshua Lee Campbell, who is the Student Tracker Services Specialist from the National Student Clearinghouse, and we have two representatives from Lorain County Community College. Lorain's a network college that fully participates in with the Clearinghouse. We have Shara Davis, who's their Dean of Research, Institutional Effectiveness, and Public Services, as well as an Achieving the Dream data coach. And we have Erica Finnick, who is a research analyst on her team. Briefly reviewing the agenda, I'm going to just introduce our new Data Insight webinar series, which we launched in March of this year. Then we'll dive into the presentation, which will take about an hour, and then we'll provide you an hour for questions and answers and discussion with today's panelists. Again, ATD launched this Data Insight webinar series in March, and it's our intention to offer routine data-focused webinars for you to emphasize the culture of evidence in your student success efforts. So our first webinar was in March on Excel pivot tables. Today's, of course, is on the transition to the Clearinghouse. All webinars are recorded, as is today's, and are available for on-demand viewing on the Achieving the Dream YouTube channel. Additionally, we have a section of the website with Clearinghouse documents, and we will also post the webinar there so that all the resources are available in one place for you. We encourage you to follow us on Twitter at Achieve the Dream and to join in data conversations using hashtag ATD_data. If you're interested in a particular topic for a Data Insight webinar, or you would like to be a presenter, please contact Allison at the email shown or designate your interest in the evaluation that you'll receive at the end of this webinar. We have upcoming Data Insight webinar on predictive analytics and the use of leading and lagging indicators that will be held September 17th. So please mark your calendar for that. Okay, after a full decade of hosting the Achieving the Dream database and data submission site, a decision was made to sunset that database for a variety of reasons. And this announcement was first made during the CEO and President session held at Dream 2014 to great applause. Email notification was sent to presidents, core team, and data team members on May 13th of 2015 about the sunset and the transition to the clearinghouse. And on June 30th, we did sunset the database. ATD did, however, save the legacy data and the latest institutional trend and benchmark reports provided to institutions. If you did not download them, do not fear. We have them, and if you submit a request to data@achievingthedream.org, we can supply you with that information. We are very appreciative of the data submissions received from our participating colleges over the years. The data collected from colleges informed our improvement efforts for a full decade, helped model the importance of longitudinal student cohort tracking, and provided colleges with both institutional and benchmark student outcome reports. We thank you. After months of examining national data collection systems and holding meetings with our data and leadership coaches and advisors, we decided to enter into a formal research agreement with the National Student Clearinghouse. This agreement went into effect in May 2015 and enables the clearinghouse to provide Achieving the Dream with custom data extracts and calculated student and institutional outcomes for our network colleges. This communication was sent out at the same time as the sunset of the database on May 13th, as well as announcing today's webinar, the data sharing authorization release form, and the data collection and reporting guide with frequently asked questions. Included in the frequently asked questions is the link to the clearinghouse's enrollment reporting, programming, and testing guide. All of these resources are available on the Achieving the Dream website, but Allison is going to send you the link now in your chat frame so that you'll have access, direct access to it during this webinar. So there are many benefits of participating in a research agreement with National Clearinghouse, and these benefits did inform our decision to enter into this agreement. First and foremost, 99% of our network colleges are already participating in the clearinghouse. We've conduct a network survey. We also conduct routine check-ins with our colleges, and we'd heard from many of our colleges that the data reporting to the data submission site was perceived as compliance focused, and it was a burden in terms of resources and the amount of time. So by entering into this research agreement with the clearinghouse, we are lifting that administrative burden. And lastly, the National Student Clearinghouse database is the most comprehensive longitudinal cohort tracking data set, and it includes an important outcome which we were not able to include before, which is the transfer as an enrollment status. I'm now going to turn the mic over to Josh, who will provide you with an overview of the National Student Clearinghouse.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Lori mentioned, my name is Joshua Lee Campbell, and I work over the National Student Clearinghouse. For those of you who are unaware of who we are, maybe have only heard of us mentioned by your IR office or by your registrar, the National Student Clearinghouse is a nonprofit organization based out of Herndon, Virginia, that was established back about 21 years ago now, for the express purpose of smoothing out the channels of communication between all the different actors in the education world. Originally, that smooth channel was set up to make it easier for educational lenders and colleges to speak to one another, and it's expanded as time has gone on. These days, we have more than 3,600 participating colleges in the U.S., and it is open to any degree-granting Title IV school in the U.S. We are especially strong in the public sector, community colleges, public schools. We have more than 99.5% of their students are with us. We have about 98% of all post-secondary students in the country come through the National Student Clearinghouse data set these days. And we do have a whole basket of services. Only a few of them really are we need to focus on or mention today. The first one is the one that every school that participates with us participates with, and that is the enrollment reporting service, or what we call core service. That was the service that we started with all those years ago. And that is an enrollment reporting service that allows a college to make an enrollment report to a single source, that being the clearinghouse, who can then hold that information on their behalf and report to any authorized parties. Is Josh still enrolled there? Did he withdraw? Is Josh a full-time student? Is he a half-time student? And so on. Answering enrollment questions so your registrar's offices, your records officers aren't inundated by thousands of calls on a weekly basis. A few years after we got started, we began having people approach us with questions, research questions, stating correctly that, by virtue of the information you're collecting for this enrollment reporting service, you have to be able to answer these very basic enrollment questions we have. And it happened often enough that we established the student tracker service as a way of normalizing and standardizing our ability to assist researchers, whether they be IR offices or maybe they're evaluators, college accreditation boards, people that have a legitimate reason to ask these questions and have the right to try to figure out the answers. Most colleges around the country who participate with us do participate in the student tracker service as well. As a benefit to the colleges, this allows the colleges to track their own alumni or track those students who maybe applied to the school but then declined to attend the school. These kinds of questions of what happened to our graduates and what happened to the kids that we wanted to come here but they never came here. The third service that plays into what we're talking about today is called Degree Verify. Of the schools that participate with us, about 85% also participate in what's called Degree Verify. This is a service we offer to the registrar's office specifically. So when I'm applying for a job and I put down that I went to Northern Virginia Community College and I got my associate's degree, the employer, instead of hanging on the phone with that college, will be told, please contact the clearinghouse. They then go to the clearinghouse where we have a dedicated staff to answer these kinds of questions. I was told, and I have a background permission here to look that Josh got his associate's in science in 2003. Did he? And we can confirm, yes, he did, or we can't find that record. So those are the three kind of main services that play into our ability to assist achieving the dream and what they're doing and their outcomes. As for security, because that's an eternal concern and question for everybody that works in education, I believe, we've never had a data breach. NSC security is extraordinarily tight. I've worked in education for about 16 years now in a variety of high security environments, and it's particularly secure. All data processing, all communication happens within our own closely held secure channels and secure processing areas. Nothing is left out on the web. Nothing is left out there where it can be snitched away. And we do this on a very regular basis. We transmit millions of records a week back and forth with large lenders, and we use the same security protocols with the colleges and universities that work with us as well. The files that come to us from you, we take in like normal. Any data files that we provide to Achieving the Dream as part of this project, however, will not contain any personally identifiable information. There'll be no social security numbers. There'll be no college IDs. Nothing like that gets passed along to Achieving the Dream. Excuse me. The data that we do host is on its own dedicated virtual server, and ATD actually took a fair amount of time investigating our security methods as well to ensure it meets their standards. As one portion of security and privacy that we required, though, and ATD agreed to, so we wrote into our agreement, is that Achieving the Dream will not publish any institution-level student outcomes to anyone except the institution themselves. So they won't be spreading around how your specific students performed. That only goes back to you. So I believe that covers all the data security bit.
This is Wei Song. Next, I'm going to present in details what data Achieving the Dream is going to get from the National Student Clearinghouse and what student success outcomes we're going to report to our network colleges. First, Achieving the Dream will continue to promote cohort-based longitudinal student data tracking. Therefore, the student cohorts we're going to track through the NSC data will be defined the same as those from the ATD database, which means they are first-time students to your college in the fall. They're degree-seeking, and they include both full-time and part-time students. For student success outcomes, as many of you might have known, traditionally the ATD student success model includes 5 student outcome measures. The first is completion of developmental courses and progression to credit-bearing courses. The second is completion of gateway English and math. The third, completion of attempted courses with a grade of C or better. The fourth, persistence from fall to spring and fall to fall. And finally, attainment of a certificate or degree. With NSC data, ATD will be able to report the following outcomes: persistence from fall to spring and fall to fall, full-time equivalent weeks of enrollment, attainment of certificate or degree, and transfer to other post-secondary institutions. So persistence and degree attainment are the 2 student outcomes that overlap with what we track through ATD database. Colleges will see consistent reporting of these 2 outcomes. Further, we will disaggregate student outcomes by subgroups. The data reports we provided to the colleges through the ATD database disaggregated the 5 student outcomes by race, gender, and Pell recipient status. With the NSC data, we will continue to disaggregate student outcomes by race, gender, Pell status, and we will be able to add 2 more filters: student enrollment in developmental education coursework and the first time ever in college status. In the past, some colleges also submitted first time ever in college status to the ATD database, but we will get much accurate information of this indicator through NSC, because NSC could cross-check students' higher education history through the comprehensive national data warehouse. So in order for us to disaggregate the student success outcomes and report to our colleges, we encourage you to begin reporting the 4 data elements: race, gender, Pell recipient status, and developmental education enrollment to NSC as soon as possible, but no later than October 16, 2015. Please note that while you cannot retroactively report those 4 data elements for prior terms, if a student started with earlier cohort and is still currently enrolled, the 4 data elements can be populated back to the earlier records. We have a scenario here for populating student characteristics. For example, Kara and Anthony both began at a college in fall 2012. Anthony is still enrolled in spring 2015, but Kara is not. Once you start populating the 4 data elements and upload with the spring 2015 data, Anthony's earlier enrollment records will be updated with this field, but Kara's will not. This slide looks a little bit busy. It presents the specific student outcome measures we will include in the institutional data reports we'll provide to network colleges using NSC data. Each year, we'll receive data on 4 student cohorts that started in the 4 of the most recent 4 academic years. For persistence, we'll report the percentage of students persisting fall to spring and percentage of students persisting fall to fall by cohort. For progress, ideally, people should use the number of course credits completed in the first and second year as milestones to track academic progress. NSC has yet to collect course credit information, but they do have a plan to collect such data very soon. So before the credit information is available, we will use full-time equivalent weeks of enrollment as a proxy to track student progress. So we will report the average number of full-time equivalent weekly enrollment in the first and second year. And then we will report student status at the end of third year and the fourth year, including percentage of students who graduated with a credential, percentage of students who transferred, percentage of students who are still enrolled at the same institution, and percentage of students who are not enrolled anywhere. For graduates, we report the distribution of award types and field of study of the highest credential attained at the ATD college first enrolled. This is a sample institutional data report we provided to network colleges through the ATD database. Some of you might have seen this before. This report is in Excel. Each individual tab in the file features one student outcome and includes a data table and a graph. This particular worksheet is on student persistence. In the data table, as you can see, for each student cohort, we report the total number of students in the cohort and the number or percentage of students persisting fall to spring and fall to fall. And below the data table, there's a trend line graph. We will also create such data reports for our colleges using the NSC data. It will be something similar, but hopefully better looking. Also, as I mentioned earlier, each year we will get data on 4 student cohorts from NSC. So in the first couple of years, you probably won't see too much of a trend line, but it will build up as we continue our collaboration with NSC. In addition, we will provide benchmark reports to our network colleges. The benchmark report presents a college's performance on ATD's student success measures with 2 external benchmarks. This will enable colleges to compare themselves to 1, ATD network colleges who entered in the same year, and 2, all ATD network colleges regardless of entry year. As we mentioned earlier in data security, each individual college's student outcome data is only accessible to that college. For example, College A will not be able to see the graduation rates of College B. In the future, additional benchmarks may be available, such as by state or by a custom list of colleges. This slide is a sample benchmark report from the ATD database. On each student success outcome, you will see a graph of 3 trend lines. For example, this worksheet is on persistence rate. The first line is the persistence rate of your college by student cohort. The second line is the average persistence rate of the colleges that joined ATD network in the same year as the college did. And the third line is the average persistence rate of the colleges in the whole ATD network. And you also have a data table for each graph. So these are on the data and data products. Now I will turn this over to Lorain.
Thank you, Wei. So while Achieving the Dream realizes that the National Student Clearinghouse data does not include all of the data elements that were in the Achieving the Dream database, we will still be tracking the same student cohorts, and we still strongly encourage colleges to continue tracking the progression of students through developmental education sequences and through the completion of gateway courses, just without having to report that data to Achieving the Dream. Additionally, we are encouraging colleges to track the achievement of credit milestones as a measure of productive persistence. And your definition may vary based on your state performance funding measure, if you have that, or what your state definition is, but we're encouraging 12 credits earned by the end of year 1 and 24 credits earned by the end of year 2. Additionally, as a resource, we will be launching a digital data discovery guide next month as a resource for you. It'll be published on a digital publishing platform. It will be viewable on your phone, your tablet, your desktop, and we've used a tiered data approach to include that foundational data that all colleges should be looking at, as well as some more mature data analyses that you can use based on your level of maturity. Embedded throughout the guide will be links to data templates that you can use, YouTube videos, and other resources. And we'll cover topics such as data visualization, how to engage others in data conversations, how to host a data summit, and a variety of other resources for you. So sometime in the near future, we'll be hosting a webinar on that for you as well. Okay, and now I would like to turn the mic over to, we'll be turning the mic over to Shara and Erica to talk about Lorain County Community College's involvement with the clearinghouse. But before we do, just let me give you a little bit of context on their college. Lorain County Community College is in Ohio, near Cleveland. It's a public, urban serving single campus with a fall head count of just over 12,000 students. Lorain joined Achieving the Dream and Completion by Design at the same time in 2011. They fully participate in the National Student Clearinghouse, including they report on all 4 of the optional data fields: race, ethnicity, gender, Pell, and developmental education. And they're going to show you how they have integrated the National Student Clearinghouse data into their institutional student success dashboard, as well as into their state and national reporting.
Thank you, Lori. This is Shara Davis from Lorain County Community College. So like Lori said, we were asked and just want to give you a brief overview of some of the applications for us in using the National Student Clearinghouse data. We really have found this data to be extraordinarily valuable on a variety of fronts, which includes, again, our federal reporting. You know, we're currently using the clearinghouse data in support of our IPEDS reporting, the National Student Loan Data System. Recently, many of you in IR offices or registrar offices may have had a communication that gainful employment is now possible. In fact, I think the clearinghouse is asking for those agreements to be signed by July 31st, so that's coming up quick. But we certainly are participating in that. And Lori mentioned that we're a completion by design, and the clearinghouse data, I believe it's our student tracker data that we use to report to completion by design. So a variety of applications for our federal national reporting. Certainly our state reporting, Ohio is one of the states that has shifted to performance-based funding, and the Student Clearinghouse data is something that our Ohio Board of Regents have been working with the Student Clearinghouse, again, to make sure that we have all transfer rates. Our state could track the data through our public institutions, but not our private, and so the incorporation of the Student Clearinghouse into the performance-based funding model has been very important. And then we're really going to drill into and give you some screenshots of how we as an institution have utilized the clearinghouse data for some customized applications. Lori mentioned our student success dashboard, and again, we'll show you a couple of screenshots. We also have a very, very strong university partnership program, a little bit unique in terms of universities offering many, many different programs right on our campus. And so we've used the clearinghouse data extensively to inform you know, the identification, the design, the articulation, and to track you know, accomplishments through our university partnership programs. So I'd like to hand over to Erica. Erica, we're a little bit unique. I know that a lot of the ATD colleges, the registrar's office is handling the student clearinghouse reporting. We actually handle that through our IR office, and Erica is our resident expert. She handles all of our clearinghouse data submissions, as well as a lot of the analysis when we get the data back to inform the applications on our campus.
Thank you, Shara. So the first part we're going to go through is how we apply it to our national reporting. So as Shara had mentioned, we use the National Student Clearinghouse in a number of ways, not only for our national reporting, but for some internal pieces as well. So the first piece that we use it for is IPEDS. And as everybody knows, as being part of the federal compliance, we all have to report our transfer out rates on the graduation rate survey. And in order to do that, what we do here, and again, to leverage that National Student Clearinghouse, we upload the cohort that they're requesting and make sure that we're able to get back that specific information tailored to that cohort. So that way we have accurate information saying that those students had gone onto another institution and where they have even gone on to. So that allows us to do that seamlessly. Again, we're able to include those private institutions, the four-year institutions, and out-of-state institutions as well. So it gives us a little better, more robust data when we're trying to report those kinds of things. The next piece that we're going to go to is the National Student Loan Data System. And again, this is another compliance piece that institutions have to do. And a lot of times the registrar's office and the financial aid office take care of this reporting. And here, because like as Shara mentioned, we are unique, our IR office is the central repository for all of the reporting. And we have found that our office reporting the NSLD data has actually made it more of a seamless process for us, because not only do we have information, the registrar's office does, and so does the financial aid office. And financial aid is our front line for our students. They see students coming up, maybe making requests, asking for information about their loans, and so they're all able to access that data, where initially they would have come to us to verify and then had to go back to the student. They can do it proactively on their own and kind of go through that stuff by themselves. And again, we're always here to help if they need. And then the gainful employment piece, we're going to start, we've signed the agreement to report this year all of the past data through the gainful employment through NSC. And again, because we're a centralized reporting system, you know, really our registrar's office looks to us to be familiar with the data nuances, kind of the file structures, what kinds of things need to be reported, what things we need to look for in terms of data anomalies, and do that data verification. And we're able to work back with them and have that open communication again about, you know, here's some of the things that we're seeing. Is this how we should be reporting, and those types of things. So able to have more of a conversation for data integrity rather than the nuts and bolts of things. And finally, for our national reporting, we are a part of Completion by Design, and they request that we submit a student tracker file. And we basically, before we submit it, we have to strip out certain fields such as name and a couple of other pieces, and then submit the file for that to them, and they use it and apply it to their 5-year measure outcomes. And so that gives us a more robust, again, measure for not only transfer, but now we're able to see are our students transferring to a 2-year or a 4-year? Are they getting a degree at not only our institution, but are they getting it at that institution that they're going to next? So are we setting our students up for success? For the state reporting, as Shara mentioned, Ohio is moving, or has moved, to performance-based funding, and we now receive points based on the number of students that transfer out in a given year. And that, as part of that initial conversation when we were moving to that direction, Ohio had said we can do public, we can do in-state institutions, but when it comes to those private institutions, when it comes to that out-of-state, they just didn't have that information. So they've been working on an agreement, and there's been a lot of conversations at the state level at trying to get the NSC data, because again, it's going to provide a more robust picture of where our students are transferring, and then again providing us with the points basically for those that are transferring out to an out-of-state institution. So I'm going to hand over now to Shara.
So we wanted to also, in addition to compliance reporting, provide you with a brief snapshot of how we're utilizing the clearinghouse data really to inform our student success planning, our problem solving, and our decision making on our own campus. And again, the clearinghouse data has been extremely valuable for us. We've used multiple sources of data, of course, but the clearinghouse data has been a key component for what feeds into our student success dashboard that we've created. So again, I want to just give you a couple of screenshots, starting with some of the institutional level data that we utilize. If you look at this actual slide, you'll see the tabs across the top. That kind of tells you the organizing structure of our student success dashboard. So we have an overview, piece for folks which describes things like cohort-based data tracking and some other important definitions to be able to interpret the data on our campus. This student success dashboard is available 24/7 on our intranet to all staff, faculty, and we've done a lot of training. I think we've trained over 100 or 150 folks on our campus on the utilization of this so that it's actually, again, informing our student success work. But we have the data broken down at the institutional level. We have it disaggregated so that, again, we can be watching, monitoring closely any achievement gaps that we're seeing. We also have spent an enormous amount of time analyzing key performance indicators at the program level, which has become very important, for a tool for our faculty, again, to track student progress and momentum, and again, to inform, where our students are not succeeding within the pipeline at the program level. And then we also have course level data that's available to many of our folks. So this first institutional level data, if we can, yeah, there we go. If you look, this is the success measure that has been selected here is actually completion and then transfer rates. And again, this gives you a snapshot for 3 student populations that we as an institution made a conscious decision that we wanted to track over time. All new students, our DevEd students, and our first time ever in college students minus the dual enrolled students. And again, this is showing you, how, again, one of the ways in which we're using the clearinghouse data. All of this is, we also made a conscious decision as an institution to track this data over a 5-year time frame. So it is, again, cohort-based, and it's based on that 5-year time frame. But you can see what we're able to do here is use the clearinghouse data to see how many of our students within that 5-year period are transferring to another 2-year institution without obtaining any kind of credential from Lorain County Community College. We are also using the clearinghouse to drill into transfers to 4-year institutions, and we track that again, because this is part of our performance-based funding model. We're able to use the clearinghouse data to track whether or not they've transferred and have actually earned 12 credit hours from Lorain County Community College prior to that transfer. And then we look at those who, less than or more than 12 credit hours. And then we look at the rate by which our students are transferring with actually earning a credential from us first. So again, just gives you one snapshot of some of the completion data, specifically the transfer rates at the institutional level. We also, again, in being an Achieving the Dream institution, we look at the disaggregated data. And this one we've actually selected as the success measure here, again, completion. And you can see somebody could actually go into certificate completion within 5 years, degree completion within 5 years, transfer rates, and then they're prompted to kind of select one of the student characteristics. We've actually pulled transfer rates and our Pell eligible population. And again, this kind of gives you a snapshot of what we're seeing for this particular student population. I mean, obviously, you can see that our transfer rates are much, much higher for our non-Pell, students. And if you look down further, it's really to 4-year institutions. And so again, it provides the ability for us to do a deeper dive, really drill into the data based on many of these factors, again, for which the Student Clearinghouse data makes this possible for us. The other one that we wanted to show real quickly is the program view of this, because again, this is the information that our faculty and provost's office are using, again, to track student progress through each of our programs. And again, we pulled the actual completion data here, and this is actually looking at, you'll see up above, the faculty and others can go in and they can look at any academic division and any particular program. This one happens to be our Universal Arts program. But you can see that within that 5-year period, we can take a look at how many students have completed a certificate, an associate degree, are transferring, again, based on the categories that I described in the earlier piece. And then we can see who's still enrolled and who's no longer with us. So again, much of this is powered through the Student Clearinghouse data to help us look at this broader picture. I think this has become more and more important as many of us are focusing on pathways for our students, and again, trying to better understand that deeper dive into, again, where our students are struggling within the pipeline. So just an example of the program view. We also do some things where we're integrating our Student Clearinghouse data with some of our other data and information. So on the next slide, we have the aggregate view, and this just shows you how we've, we can take the transfer data and look at it combined with, the percentage of our students for each of these 3 populations that are actually earning a credential and or transferring within the 5 years. And then below, we've looked at credential transfer and persistence. This has been one that our District Board of Trustees, in kind of monitoring a couple of key metrics, continues to look at overall. So again, just an example of how we've integrated the Student Clearinghouse data, into some broader key performance indicators. And then one last, a couple of slides, we again, because of the strength of our university partnership program, which we've worked on now for a couple of decades, we really, really rely on the Student Clearinghouse data to look at the colleges or universities that our students are transferring to. And again, you can see this snapshot. This is kind of the top 32 colleges and universities. And, there's a blend here, again, of the public and private. And so very, very important to us that we have the ability to track this information to inform existing partnerships, new partnerships with universities. We know where our students are going when they transfer from our college. The other thing that we like tremendously about the Clearinghouse data in, again, informing that planning and decision making around our university partnership programs is once a student completes a program at the university, we then have that data at the actual program level. So, we can actually go in and look at what are the programs of completion, and does that align with the partnerships that we have in place. So again, just some examples of some ways that we've used the Student Clearinghouse data to, again, inform the design, the implementation of our Student Success Dashboard. Our goal has really been, to get data into the hands of our front lines, and this has been one way to do it, and the Student Clearinghouse data is a particularly valuable tool for us. It's also just building on Lori and Wei, the importance, I think, of incorporating, because we know the disaggregated data, the student characteristics are voluntary, but I think very, very important from an Achieving the Dream perspective, from our perspective, again, in being able to monitor those achievement gaps. So the last piece that we want to highlight before we hand back off to Lori is, a couple of recommendations. We, again, our IR office handles the Student Clearinghouse data, but we have a very, very close ongoing relationship and communication system with our registrar's office. They help us quite a bit, when we have, oftentimes we'll have missing data and that kind of thing that they assist us with. And so, one of the things that the Achieving the Dream colleges might want to do, given the importance of the registrar's office, is to make sure that both IR and the registrar's office are included on the Achieving the Dream data team. We, again, allow our folks, we all have access to the data and information, so really what it impacts for us is the integrity, the quality of the data that we actually submit to the National Student Clearinghouse and then are able to get back from the clearinghouse on the back end. So, building that bridge between the IR and the registrar's office, I think, and like Erica mentioned, we have that with our financial office as well. So I think building those bridges are very, very important and will continue to be as Achieving the Dream shifts to the Student Clearinghouse data.
Thank you, Shara and Erica. That was extremely helpful. And I do echo Shara's comment that we really, Achieving the Dream is encouraging you, if you don't have a member of the registrar's office on your data team, to include them now because of the importance of this clearinghouse and using that data for your student success. Now I'm going to briefly review the project timeline with you. In order for the National Student Clearinghouse to be able to share your institution's data with Achieving the Dream, we're asking each college to sign and return the data authorization form to Achieving the Dream by July 31st of this month. The form, you can see the image of it on the right-hand side of your screen, requires an original or wet signature, but you can scan it and email it to data@achievingthedream.org. We've already received, I think, over 60, but we would like to have those by the end of this month. And if you have questions about that form, those should be directed to Joshua Leek Campbell, whose email you'll have and who's here today, who can answer any direct questions you have. By October 16th, 2015, colleges should have submitted all requested student enrollment and graduation records for the 2014-15 academic year. And we're including a cutoff date of August 31st for the clearinghouse to take a snapshot of that data. In late November, Achieving Dream will receive the network college data back from the clearinghouse. And in spring 2016, ATD will share institutional and benchmark reports to you, similar to the samples that way illustrated. Each state has their own National Student Clearinghouse Director. So we have those listed here. They're all, I know it's hard to see, they're also included in the reporting guide that Allison sent you a link to in your chat frame. But every state has a clearinghouse director, and that can be your go-to person for specific questions you have about uploading your data. Okay, now we would like to turn our attention to the question and answer portion.
Thanks, Lori. So we've been getting lots of questions throughout the presentation, and I've been answering as much as we can, but there are a few lingering questions we'd like to get to that I think would be beneficial for the group to hear. So first, we have someone asking a specific question for Lorain on what application do you use for your student success dashboard? So Shar or Erica, could you chime in on that?
Sure, this is Erica. We use an SAP product called Dashboards. It's a pretty robust tool. It allows us a lot of flexibility in creating the entire piece of it. We create all the transitions, all the looks, everything. So it's, again, it's an SAP product called Dashboards.
The other one, we've drilled into some other potential products recently. Tableau is one that I know a lot of folks are utilizing. In our comparison of, for example, Tableau to the dashboard product, the SAP product that we're using, we found not huge differences. So, it's probably best to look at from the perspective of what's most affordable, at this point. But I know Tableau is another one that many folks are using.
Great, thank you. We have a question regarding the NSC authorization form. So the question is, who at the college is receiving the form, and does someone specific have to sign the authorization form?
The authorization form should be signed by whatever office initially signed your agreement with the NSC. I say the office because a lot of y'all have been with the NSC for 10, 15, 20 years, and I'm not assuming the same person is still there. But maybe it was the president's office, maybe it was the dean's office, maybe it was the office of the registrar. Whoever sort of your head NSC contact at the school is should be the person to sign it, or whoever has the authority to make a legally binding agreement on behalf of the school. If you're not familiar with who sort of your primary NSC person on campus is, I would start by asking your registrar. That was sort of where we got our start with most colleges, was the registrar's office, and most of the time it'll either be the registrar's office or the IR office, or if not them, they'll at least be able to direct you and say, you need to go speak to this person, and they can be the ones to help you.
Great, thanks Josh. All right, another question that we have come in is, let's see, will fall to spring and fall to fall persistence be at the same college or at any college? I believe Wei is going to answer this.
This will be at the same college.
Okay, great. Let's see. We have a question that has come in about what the reports will look like. So the reports we showed were previous past reports. So this individual is asking what the new reports will look like.
We have not designed those yet, but they'll be very similar to what Wade demoed for you. It will be an Excel workbook for you on each of the student success tabs and disaggregations, as well as trend lines. So it'll be very similar to what you've had in the past, but we hope to refine them and deliver a very nice data product for you.
Great, thanks Lori. Our next question is regarding quarter system versus semester. Will the National Student Clearinghouse adjust for quarters versus the semester system?
The way, and I think this goes into our question earlier, the way that we're actually dealing with this is your schools report to us specific dates. You report to us the date the term begins and the date the term ends. And so our reporting is actually looking at the weeks in there. So it doesn't matter, it matters less if it's bundled up in a semester or a trimester or a quarter. As far as looking at sort of effort over time, we're taking a look at the number of weeks that are being reported by the school.
Okay.
I hope that addresses the question.
Yeah, and if any of these, if you guys have follow-up questions to our answers, feel free to type them into the question pane. Our next question is regarding international students, and they just want a general answer. Will the data be available for international students?
As in students that come to the U.S.
Yes.
For school?
Yes.
We rely on the enrollment reporting of the U.S. schools. So if they're enrolled at a participating U.S. school, they'll be here. If they head back out, if they're here for a year and then bounce back out of the country, we don't collect internationally. So.
Okay, great. Let's see. All right. So the next question is, where can I find more information on what and how to submit the 2014-2015 data to the National Student Clearinghouse? I am not the person responsible for enrollment reporting, so I need to be able to communicate what is needed to our registrar ASAP.
Okay. Two sources of information here I would recommend. The first source you can get on your own is just the National Student Clearinghouse website. Click under the Colleges tab, click on the Student Tracker tab under that, and you'll be getting to things like the core programming guide that I shared with ATD. That will walk you through what the standards are down to how many spaces can each thing take up. Beyond that, though, and maybe more helpful than that, would be to have a talk with your registrar about what these new needs are, and have your registrar contact Student Tracker at studentclearinghouse.org. that email address, or your registrar may just have a point of contact there already. We'll route them to one of our student tracker coordinators who has been assigned to your school and probably has been for a few years now, who at least, even if they've never had any personal interactions, understands what kind of rhythm your school has established about when they're getting data in. Are the files usually coming in clean and ready to go, or is this a school that we have to turn around a couple of corrections, or that kind of thing? What your coordinator at the clearinghouse will then do is they'll be able to reach back out to your registrar, get on the phone with them, email with them, and help walk them through the process and make sure that they have a clarity of understanding about what's going to be in the file and how it's formatted and how it comes to us. So those are the two routes I would suggest. Is first, get online, take a look at what we already have up on the website, just to familiarize yourself. Then really have a heart-to-heart with your registrar and encourage them to contact us directly so we can get some in-person customized help to them.
Great. Thanks, Josh. Did you want to add on?
Additionally, that Achieving the Dream on our website, and Allison sent you all the link in your chat frame, has a data collection and reporting guide with frequently asked questions, with the emails and the references and resources that Josh just referenced. So that is a good place to start as well.
That would be great.
Great. So our next question is the following. Let's see. So for the National Student Clearinghouse enrollment requirements for DevEd, Pell Grant, FTE are all optional and have not yet been reported by our college. Will we have to resubmit these files for 2014-2015?
Well, you can't go back. You can't resubmit a file for a term that's expired, that's gone on. What you'll need to do is basically start picking up those optional elements from your next submission to us. Now, on the upside, if the student is still enrolled at your school, let's say you've had Josh in your school for 3 years now, he's still enrolled this year, you can attach Pell status, DevEd, that kind of thing to Josh's record, and that information will stay with Josh. That once it comes to us, we sort of attach it to that individual and it stays there. If I graduated last year, though, and we're well past last year, we're into the fall of 2015 submissions, you can't go back and resubmit the 2014 record. That's just, the opportunity is gone. So the best advice is just get yourselves geared up and just start from your college's next submission of getting that data into us.
Thanks, Josh. Our next question is for Shara and Erica. Someone would like to know what the size of your IR staff is, or institutional effectiveness staff, at Lorain.
So I oversee the IR/IE function here. Have two research analysts, Erica, of which is one, who are both extremely fantastic. Again, given that all of our work is centralized on our campus for compliance and all of these types of efforts. And then we have an administrative assistant and one other who handles a lot of the primary data collection work, that we do, so a lot of the survey work and some other things. We're fortunate in that we have some wraparound support. We have an institute that has for 25 years provided research services to the community. It's the Cost Recovery Institute. We're housed together all in one division, and so we have analysts that they're serving clients, but we have the support back to the IR office, for which we are extraordinarily fortunate. But basically just two research analysts that handle all of our data extraction and reporting for all of these purposes and all data requests on our campus.
Great. Thanks, Shara. So next question is the following. If we have concerns about the accuracy of our National Student Clearinghouse graduation data, how would we correct it?
First question I would have would be, what kind of concerns are you talking about? Are you talking about kids that have moved on to other schools and you are certain they graduate from a four-year school but it's not being reported back? Is it students that are graduating from your institutions with an associate's or a certificate that you're worried aren't showing up? What kind of concern here I would have to ask?
Okay, so maybe for this person, if you could follow up with that answer in the question pane. If we have time to get to it, we will. If not, we can try to connect you with Josh following this webinar. Okay, so the next question is the following. Is it possible to include age range as one of the demographic characteristics? We have a large percentage of non-traditional age students and would like to track them. All right, sorry for the pause. We're discussing internally, so just give us one more second.
So not at this time. We have not included that in the research agreement. This is our initial pilot year with, this transition to the clearinghouse, so that's something that we can revisit and consider for the future.
All right, so the following question is, how many years of data can be submitted to the National Student Clearinghouse for the initial ATD report?
If your school has never participated with the clearinghouse before, we will take all the data you can scrape up. We have had, when we first got started, we had some colleges and universities with very extensive, very old records that literally submitted more than 80 years of information to us at once. Most schools don't have the resources to go back and do that. But that is a one-time, just getting started thing only. Because what we have to do is we assemble all of those into a single mass data set and start your school's population in our system. After that initial submission, it just needs to be the current term, the current quarter, the current semester that comes to us.
Great. Thanks, Josh. The next question is, again, probably for the National Student Clearinghouse. Does the NSC have clear guidelines about the definition of a DevEd student, or does it leave it up to each college to define?
That is defined by the institution.
Great.
But in terms of the clearinghouse, this is a DevEd. It's a yes-no flag, and it's not by subject area. It's actually that they enrolled in developmental education coursework. Not that they were placed, but they actually enrolled by their behavior in a DevEd course.
And they have to be for that term or semester.
Okay. So we have a question from one of our new 2015 cohort colleges. Should the 2015 ATD cohort colleges who attended the kickoff in June submit National Student Clearinghouse data?
Yes.
Great.
And each college at the kickoff was given one copy of what services they were participating in and whether they were reporting any of the optional data elements. So your data coach was given that and should have shared that with you, but we have that as well and are happy to provide that again if you email data@achievingthedream.org.
All right, we have another question for Lorain. Someone would like to know how long it took for LCC to develop their student success dashboard. Many colleges have rolled out such things, and our administration sees them once one, but they think it can be accomplished overnight. So if Shara or Erica, could you chime in on the timing of your student success dashboard?
From conceptualization, to completion in terms of, we're constantly tweaking the dashboard, but to fully rolling it out to our campus community, it was about a year. I think, there's a lot of technical work and analysis that goes into that. It's not a dynamic system, so, we are constantly updating that after each term, after, each academic year. But I think, for us, one of the challenges in getting started was to get consensus from the campus community on things like what exactly are the student populations that you're going to track. Again, we had many conversations at multiple levels, through our engagement, our student success engagement work, and we landed on the 3 populations. There's also the decision point of something like, what's the time frame? Is it completion within 3 years? Is it completion within 4 years? We made a conscious decision as an institution that we were going to track over a 5-year period, and that made sense for us because at least 2/3 of our student population are part-time. And so, it's that kind of engagement and decision-making that has to occur on the campus, to inform then the design of that system. But, we found the dashboard software to be pretty easy to navigate through.
Great. Thanks, Shara. Let's see. And I've been getting several questions again about the presentation for today. We will be emailing it out. So if you join the webinar late, we will be emailing out the PowerPoint presentation following this webinar later on this afternoon.
And again, the webinar will be recorded and available on our Achieving the Dream YouTube channel.
So a quick follow-up question again for Shara and or Erica. Where is your dashboard placed? For example, in Argos?
So that's a really good question, and that was something we wrestled with on our campus for a while. We wanted to be able to have it in a location where faculty and staff could access it, and administrators anytime they needed to, because again, it was all about getting the data into the hands of the people when they needed it, when they were able to look at it. And so the best way that we could figure out on our end is we have something that's called our SharePoint site, and it's actually located on our internal internet or intranet. And so a flash version of our dashboard lives out there. So somebody that is trying to access it actually has to have a login to get into that site in order to see it. So that's where it is currently.
And just to piggyback on that, one of the things when we designed this, it is a continuous improvement tool for our institution. So, we knew that this was something we wanted to be accessible internally. It's not externally accessible for a variety of reasons. Again, we're trying to infuse some transparency throughout our campus, improve, data utilization campus-wide, but it's an internal continuous improvement tool, which is why but that did take us some time to figure out how we were actually going to make that available through our intranet.
Great. Thanks, Shara. So we have a question from someone about the JBL system and how they can go back into the system to see their old data. So I think this was mentioned earlier in the presentation.
Right. So that database has been discontinued, but Achieving the Dream has the legacy data as well as the latest institutional data reports, institutional and benchmarking reports that were provided to you. So if you email data@achievingthedream.org, we can work with you to get you those legacy documents.
Thanks, Lori. Our next question is the following. Do the colleges have the ability to revise the data after it has been submitted to the National Student Clearinghouse?
Kind of. Always a fun answer. If it's in the same term. So let's say you get your first fall reporting to us, that what kids showed up at the beginning of the semester. You realize a couple weeks in that there was a mistake or you need to make some corrections. Most colleges will give us reports 3 to 4 times a term. So in that next report after the add drop period closes or that end of semester report, make sure you've got your corrections in there and submitted to us. Once the term is closed out, you can't really roll backwards.
Okay. And if you have more specific questions, feel free to follow up through email, and we can try to answer them the best of our ability. All right. Here's another question for you, Josh. Are many private 4-year institutions signing on with the National Student Clearinghouse?
We currently have about 94% of all traditional private schools, and we have about 78% of all for-profit private schools.
Great. Thanks. Our next question is regarding the effects onto your implementation plans. So someone would like to know how these changes will affect their submitted implementation plan. It seems that we are on our own with respect to any data not collected and available with the National Student Clearinghouse.
No, next month the digital data guide will be coming out. That'll show the foundational data that you should be looking at. There'll be templates in there for like your top 25 highest enrolled courses, you know, by success rates, and a variety of things that you should be looking at, including you know, your DevEd course sequence and your gateway courses. So we will be providing that resource to you next month, and you have the benefit of your data coaches as well, who will be partners with you on this journey.
Great, thanks, Lori. The next question is the following. Do all of the new trend reports reference National Student Clearinghouse data only, or does the trend also include info that we have reported in the past?
The intention is to report the student outcomes using NSC data only, but we can do some exploration to see that NSC student cohorts are compatible with the historical ATD database cohorts. So possibly if we want to have a trend line, a longer trend line, we can, if they're well aligned, we can use some public dotted lines to show historical student outcomes, and then the concrete lines to show the NSC trend lines. That's a possibility, but we can't guarantee that.
We also want to be clear that because some of the colleges are not reporting those 4 optional, NSC optional data elements, the gender, the ethnicity, the Pell, the DevEd, that until colleges start populating those fields, there's going to be gaps in the data and the trend line until the reporting collection catches up and we have a more comprehensive set that includes those 4 data elements. So there will be a lag until we have perfect disaggregation and trend lines for you with regards to those 4 data elements, if you have not been reporting them previously.
Thanks, Lori. All right. So it seems like our questions are winding down. Let's see if a few more are coming in. Oh, I think we might have another one. Let's see. The webinar, a question about when will the recording of the webinar be available. Ideally later on today, but at latest tomorrow. Every attendee will be receiving a follow-up email with the direct link to the webinar and the presentation and all of these materials that we've given. So we have a follow-up question regarding cohort definition. Will the National Student Clearinghouse be determining our cohorts, or will we be notified of who they are?
As we explained earlier, the student cohorts will be defined the same as the cohort using the ATD database. So there will be first time starting at your college in the fall, degree seeking, including both full-time, part-time. So since the college has been submitting data to National Student Clearinghouse all the time, so we were just giving NSC the specific instructions how to pull this students from their database.
Thanks, Wei. So our next question is, of 4-year colleges which restrict access to student records, will our transfer students who transfer to that college be counted in the metrics?
If you're asking about 4-year schools that don't generally share their students through Student Tracker, I will decline at this time until I can confirm something. I want to confirm something before I publicly state the answer. Let me get the answer to ATD though, and they can send it out
Yeah.
with an email answering that question.
We can include it in our materials, and I have the individual specific contact information, so we can follow up with you directly. All right, we have another follow-up question. Let's see. How will the institution submit the optional fields to the National Student Clearinghouse?
The how to submit it is, the formatting is all included in the core reporting program and programming guide that your registrars or whoever is responsible for submitting that data to us should already have. If they don't have the updated one, please encourage them to get the most up-to-date one. We keep it most up-to-date one on our website. So just if you get the feeling that your registrar may not have downloaded a copy in the last 5 or 6 years, please ask them to do so and take a look.
And we have a link to that in our transition guide as well.
All right, we have a question about first-timers. Is the cohort first time in college or first time in curricular? Does that make sense? I guess I can I
mean, for the cohort, it's first time at your college.
All right.
But again, the clearinghouse will be, you've given them the cohort definitions, you're submitting all the data you've always submitted, plus the optional fields, they will define the cohort for you.
Right. So following up on the previous cohort question, we have a question stated the following. What about former dual credit students at our college who matriculate here after high school?
Traditionally, we only count the students until they formally enroll in your college. But this is a bit tricky. I don't know how to do that with NSC.
Are the dual enrollment students during high school marked down as degree seeking? Would be the first question I'd ask. And that's one of the tags that we ask registrars for is, are they degree seeking students? So if they're degree seeking students, then they'll roll right in, but, and this is my anecdotal experience, is that a lot of dual enrollment students that are still high schoolers are not marked down as degree seeking, but are marked down as enrolled.
Yeah, we only count them through the ATD database, only count them until they claim degree seeking and formally enrolled at the community college in the cohort. Yeah.
All right, thanks. And if you have, again, follow up to that answer, just email us directly and we'll be happy to discuss with you personally. Another clarification question. If we've already participated in the National Student Clearinghouse in past years, then are we just starting to submit on, let's see, are we just starting submitting on, they said August 31st, 2015 data, oh I see, starting to submit the August 31st, 2015 data by October 16th, is that correct?
No, if you've been submitting to us over the years past, I hope I'm understanding your question correctly, that's great. You'll pretty much keep doing what you've been doing, adding those extra data elements if you haven't been doing that. The cutoff is August 31st. So whatever you don't have to us by August 31st, we won't take into account for that, I don't know how you want that particular cohort. So if you want to be sure you're including someone, get in by August 31st, or it won't get caught up till the next cycle.
Right, because that's when NSC will be taking the snapshot of the data for your cohort.
And one more clarification. It's an August 31st deadline because we're trying to give you that long to capture everyone who finished the previous spring and that summer term. You don't need to get us your fall enrollments by August 31st. That comes later. So, for example, if everything was already up and running and August 31st, 2015 is coming up, what we're looking to capture by August 31st are your graduates from spring and summer of 2015, not your fall 2015 kids.
Alrighty, just going through our questions. Some of these we're planning to follow up with you individually. They're very specific questions, so if we don't get to your question right now, don't worry. We will provide you an answer. We have all of your contact information and the specific person who's asked them. So we're just looking for some more questions that are appropriate for the large audience.
Also, we wanted to extend the offer that if there's a state system on here or a larger group of colleges that would like a custom conference call with us, we are happy to set that up and offer you that as a service.
Bear with us as we're just reviewing our questions. So we have another clarification question. Just to confirm, ATD will no longer be collecting developmental education and gateway courses.
Hi, that is correct. And with developmental education reform in several states, tracking and comparing progress through the developmental education sequence through gateway courses was becoming quite challenging, as was providing meaningful benchmarks. In states such as Florida, students have the option to opt in or out of placement testing and developmental education altogether. Nationally, many colleges now offer co-requisite, modularized, contextualized, and other instructional methods to accelerate completion through developmental education, and they also offer multiple gateway course options, particularly in math. For instance, many colleges have a college algebra track as well as a statistics track. So given all that variation, nationally, those benchmarks weren't as meaningful, so we strongly encourage you to still look at and examine that data and collect it institutionally, and to maybe benchmark yourself within your state, but not through Achieving the Dream or nationally.
Thanks, Lori. We have a question about privacy. They're asking, what about student privacy flags? Are they exempted from your reports and National Student Clearinghouse uploads?
If a student's invoked their FERPA privacy rights, as long as the cell size is long enough, their de-identified, non-identifiable information will be folded into the data set. If a cell size for some reason is particularly tiny and it would be possible to reverse engineer and figure out who the student was, we will suppress their information.
Great, thanks, Josh. And we're going to round it off with this last question. In the posted document, it says that the National Student Clearinghouse will be calculating 3 fields. Can you tell me how the three fields of persistence, transfer, and credential will be calculated?
For persistence, we have fall to spring and fall to fall. So if the National Student Clearinghouse, they found an enrollment record of a student at the same college for the next fall semester or the next spring semester, they can count them as persistent. For the transfer, we're looking at the student status at the end of the 3rd year and 4th year. So by the end of for example, by the end of 3rd year, if the National Student Clearinghouse found the students' enrollment records at another institution, and then they be counted as transfer students.
Great.
And then for credential, is also by the end of 3rd or 4th year, if they found the students like a degree information or certificate information, they count them as graduates at the same institution.
Thanks, Wei. And just to reiterate, we have received over the last several minutes and throughout the Q&A section several questions that we're just not going to have the time to answer, and some of them are a little bit too complicated for this call. But like I mentioned, we will be reading through them right after this call, and we'll be following up with you individually. And if you have any additional questions that you think of following this webinar, feel free to contact us. Our information is now on the screen. The Achieving the Dream staff and National Student Clearinghouse and our representatives from Lorain County Community College.
All right, so thank you so much for joining us today for the webinar. I thank all of you who participated and logged in. I also want to thank our panelists. Thank you, Shara and Erica. Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Wei and Allison. And Allison is going to be sending out a brief evaluation for you in your chat frame, and she will also be sending you an email after this webinar, which also contains a link to the evaluation. As she said, we will follow up with all questions that we received individually to the people that asked those questions. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.